A corporate sustainability pledge looks ironclad in a press release, but under public scrutiny, a poorly constructed claim disintegrates in days. Executives often set ambitious climate goals to satisfy immediate board pressure. They pick a target year and an environmental buzzword without auditing the rigid definitions behind those terms. That disconnect has a steep price. Committing to a pledge your operations cannot actually support wastes millions in capital and triggers severe greenwashing backlash. Two terms dominate this space: carbon neutral and net zero. Companies frequently use them interchangeably, but they represent entirely different operational standards. Choosing the wrong framework is a strategic failure. It destroys brand trust and invites strict regulatory fines. Every company operating today faces the same starting line. You need a defensible climate pledge to satisfy market and customer demands. This diagram illustrates the critical fork in the road every executive encounters. You have to decide, will you reduce your emissions internally or offset them externally? Taking the external offset path leads directly to carbon neutrality. It offers a fast, relatively affordable public relations win. The trade-off is structural vulnerability. Offsetting is a surface-level fix that leaves your actual business operations entirely exposed to incoming climate regulations. The internal reduction path leads to net zero. This requires the high-cost, complex reality of future-proofing your entire operation from the ground up. This initial decision sets the baseline for your capital allocation and regulatory compliance for the next several budget cycles. To understand the appeal of the first option, we have to look at the strict financial mechanics of buying your way to a neutral status. The core requirement of carbon neutrality is purchasing carbon credits. You buy a volume of external credits equal to your company's ongoing emissions to balance the ledger. This matrix outlines the framework. Carbon neutrality requires addressing Scope 1 and 2 emissions. Scope 1 covers direct operations. Scope 2 covers purchased electricity. The appeal is speed. Collecting data for your own facilities is manageable, allowing you to claim status immediately. The trap lies in the timeline. Achieving an immediate status creates a perpetual, recurring financial cost that hits your balance sheet every single year. Paying that recurring offset cost does absolutely nothing to improve the actual physical efficiency or energy independence of your business. Your factories or servers still consume the exact same amount of power. Carbon neutrality functions as a subscription to external environmental projects. It maintains a specific status through recurring payments without altering your company's own energy profile. A modern global supply chain operates on an overwhelming scale, and almost all of it exists entirely outside of your company's direct control. This is known as Scope 3. It encompasses all indirect emissions originating from your supply chain and from customers using your products. Standard carbon-neutral pledges completely ignore this category. Leaving this vast indirect footprint unaddressed drastically lowers the credibility of your corporate pledge among expert investors. They know the bulk of a company's true climate impact lives in the supply chain. The net zero framework takes a radically different approach. It aggressively forces companies to confront this massive supply chain chasm. The defining input requirement for net zero is legally mandating Scope 3 decarbonization across all of your external partners. This creates severe operational friction. You have to renegotiate supplier contracts, invest in complex data tracking systems, and drop vendors who refuse compliance. The willingness to tackle Scope 3 is the definitive dividing line between a superficial marketing exercise and true operational resilience. This bar chart shows the massive quantitative burden required by net zero. You are committing to a 90% or greater physical reduction of emissions across your entire value chain. The harsh capital reality is that achieving a 90% physical reduction requires massive upfront capital expenditure and years of painful structural change to your facilities and logistics. For the final 10%, the rules are incredibly strict. Permanent carbon removals are authorized only for residual, absolutely unavoidable emissions. The cost trade-off for this final step is immense. Technological removal, like direct air capture, where machines extract CO2 directly from the atmosphere, is currently exponentially more expensive than traditional forestry offsets. Companies that survive this gauntlet secure a distinct outcome: bulletproof ESG credibility, zero greenwashing risk, and total alignment with global climate science. ESG refers to environmental, social, and governance criteria used by investors to evaluate corporate behavior. Achieving net zero requires a high capital reconstruction of your procurement and operations. It moves the business from managing carbon offsets to re-engineering its entire value chain. Knowing the mechanics of both frameworks allows us to match the right path to your specific business reality right now. This quadrant chart weighs the two options. The vertical axis measures long-term credibility and viability, while the horizontal axis tracks the cost and operational effort required to implement them. Consider a resource-constrained small or medium-sized business. This company needs a starting point to satisfy immediate customer demands, but they cannot bankrupt themselves in the process. Mapping this reality to the chart shows why a smaller business must start with a rigorous carbon-neutral framework. It requires lower effort for a moderate gain in credibility. The trade-off is that while they secure an immediate baseline compliance win, they must accept that this is merely a stepping stone. It is not the finish line. Now consider an enterprise executive. They face severe investor pressure, public scrutiny, and looming regulatory mandates across multiple international borders. For the enterprise reality, there is only one viable option. They must commit to the high-friction net zero pathway to ensure their long-term market survival. Labeling one framework as universally better misses the point. The correct choice depends entirely on whether your company's size and budget can physically support the required transformation. Theoretical mapping only matters until it meets the harsh reality of corporate budget allocation and imminent Q3 spending decisions. Executives face a very direct alternative. You can spend $10,000 on external carbon credits, or you can spend $10,000 on an internal energy audit to fix your own infrastructure. The greatest danger in this ecosystem is a mismatch. Publicly promising a net zero future, while internally only funding cheap carbon-neutral initiatives, creates massive liability. This exact discrepancy between your public claims and capital reality is the primary trigger for devastating greenwashing litigation. Executives must strictly align the claims they make in press releases with the actual authorized capital reality inside their finance departments. True sustainability is about executing the most defensible, mathematically sound strategy tailored for your business's current reality today.